Hi everyone, and welcome to Life-Changing Success Stories. Today, we're diving into the incredible journey of Steve Jobs, the visionary co-founder of Apple. From his humble beginnings in a garage workshop to revolutionizing the tech world with the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and beyond, we'll explore the key moments, challenges, and breakthroughs that shaped his legacy. So grab a seat, enjoy our colorful illustrations, and get ready to be inspired by Steve's story.
Chapter 1: Early Life and Adoption. Steve Jobs was born on February 24, 1955, in San Francisco, California. His full name was Stephen Paul Jobs. His birth parents were Abdul Fattah John Jandali and Joanne Schiebel. They were very young. They worried their families would not agree with their marriage, so they gave baby Steve up for adoption. A kind couple, Paul and Clara Jobs, lived in Mountain View, California. Paul worked as a machinist. He made and fixed metal parts. Clara stayed home and cared for children. They had a happy home. When they heard about baby Steve, they decided to adopt him. Paul and Clara loved Steve from the first day. They called him Steve. Steve grew up in a simple house. He had toys and books, but he liked his father's workshop the most. The workshop was in their garage. It was full of tools, wires, and metal parts. Paul showed Steve how to use a screwdriver and a wrench. He taught Steve to keep a clean workbench. He told Steve to be careful with tools. Steve watched closely and learned fast. When Steve was very small, he spent many days in the garage. He saw simple machines and small electric motors. Paul let him help connect wires. Steve liked to touch parts and see how they moved. He felt happy when a light bulb worked or a motor turned. Clara and Paul also taught Steve to read books. At home, they read stories about machines and science. Paul gave Steve little projects. For example, Steve fixed an old radio or built a small lamp. Steve felt proud when he finished a project. He felt that he could make new things. At school, Steve was a curious boy. He asked many questions. He wanted to know how things worked. He was quiet, but very smart. His teachers saw that he loved to learn. Steve's home and school gave him strong roots. He learned to work with his hands and his mind. Chapter 2: Learning and Curiosity. When Steve was about 12 years old, Paul had a new job at Hewlett-Packard, a big electronics company. Paul worked there in the evening sometimes. He asked his bosses for parts and tools for Steve. One day, Paul built a special workbench in the garage just for Steve. It had shelves, wires, and many small tools. Steve used the bench every day after school. He invited his friend Steve Wozniak, who lived down the street. They called each other Woz. Steve Jobs and Wozniak spent hours in the garage. They opened broken radios and toys. They fixed wires and made simple circuits. They learned how to read circuit diagrams and use a soldering iron. Steve and Wozniak loved electronics. They read every book in the local library on electronics. They looked at magazines that showed new gadgets. They went to the Hewlett-Packard Explorer Club, where many kids and adults met to talk about electronics and computers. Steve felt that he was part of a group of learners. In high school, Steve worked at Hewlett-Packard on weekends. He got a small job testing equipment. He saved money to buy more parts for the garage. His parents supported him. They saw his passion and ambition. Every day, Steve explored new ideas. He spent evenings drawing simple circuits and writing notes. He loved the smell of solder and the sound of a buzzer. He felt happy when a project worked well. Steve also loved art and design. He spent time watching how things looked. He kept a small notebook of designs. He drew simple shapes and wrote color notes. He did not know then that this habit would help him later. Chapter 3: College and Calligraphy. In 1972, Steve finished high school. He got good grades but did not choose a clear path. He decided to go to Reed College in Oregon. Reed was a small private school. The campus was beautiful and full of trees. Steve knew it was expensive, but he wanted to learn. After one semester, Steve saw that the cost was too high. His adoptive parents could not pay the fees. Steve decided to drop out of Reed College, but he stayed near campus. He sat in on classes he liked. He did not pay tuition, but the teachers let him listen. One class that caught Steve's eye was calligraphy. Calligraphy is the art of beautiful writing. He saw many styles of letters and fonts. He learned about spacing, form, and style. He found the shapes of letters very interesting. He practiced writing letters for fun. Steve's friends saw him carry a small notebook. He filled it with drawings of letters and simple shapes. He thought about how a letter's shape could make words look good on a screen. Even though Steve left formal college, he continued to learn on his own. He read books on history, literature, and art. He read newspapers and magazines. He visited museums and art shows. His mind was open to many fields. This time of free learning shaped Steve's thinking. He did not follow a strict path. He learned from his interests. He learned to pick what he liked and learn deeply. Chapter 4: Starting Apple Computer. After a time in Oregon, Steve returned to California in 1974. He did not have a clear job. He lived on friends' couches and in cheap rooms. He ate simple food. He looked for work and found a job at Atari, a video game maker. Atari made arcade games like Pong. Steve worked as a technician. He fixed game machines and built game boards. In 1975, Steve met up again with Steve Wozniak. Wozniak had built a small computer circuit. It could show letters on a screen. Steve saw Wozniak's work and felt excited. They talked and sketched ideas. They thought that many people could use a small personal computer at home. In April 1976, they formed a company called Apple Computer, along with a friend, Ron Wayne. The name Apple was simple and easy to remember. Their first computer was the Apple I. It was a board you had to connect to a keyboard and monitor. It had no case or box, but hobbyists and electronics fans liked it. They ordered some boards. Steve and Wozniak worked in Steve's parents' garage. They built the boards, tested them, and packed them. They sold a few to local stores. The money they earned paid for more parts. They spent nights and weekends in the garage. In 1977, Apple released the Apple II. This time they made a nice plastic case, a keyboard, and color graphics. The Apple II was easy to use. Schools, small businesses, and families bought it. Over 200,000 Apple IIs sold in the first year. People called this the start of the personal computer age. Apple's success gave Steve confidence. He saw that a small team with big dreams could change the world. Chapter 5: Leaving Apple, Next, and Pixar. In 1980, Apple became a public company. This meant Apple sold shares to the public. Anyone could buy part of Apple. On the first day, Apple's value rose a lot. Steve was 25 years old and a multi-millionaire. But with success came pressure. Steve was a demanding leader. He wanted high quality and fast progress. He clashed with other Apple executives, including John Sculley, whom he had brought in from PepsiCo. The board of directors did not always agree with Steve's style. In 1985, after many disagreements, Steve was forced out of Apple. He felt sad and betrayed. He left the company he had started in a garage. But Steve did not give up. He saw the change as a chance to try new things. He started a new computer company called Next. Next made high-end computers for universities and businesses. They looked beautiful and had powerful software. But Next computers were too expensive for most people. Next sold only a few units and struggled with money. At the same time, Steve bought a small animation studio from George Lucas. The studio was called Pixar. Pixar made short films and commercials using computer graphics. Steve believed that computers could make great movies. In 1995, Pixar released Toy Story, the first full-length film made entirely with computer animation. The movie was a big hit. It earned hundreds of millions of dollars and won many awards. Pixar's success made Steve a billionaire. He became Pixar's chairman and largest shareholder. Through Next's challenges and Pixar's success, Steve learned many lessons about design, technology, and business. Chapter 6: Return to Apple and Lasting Legacy. In 1996, Apple was in trouble. Its products were many and confusing. Sales were falling. Apple needed new ideas and new software. Apple decided to buy Next for its powerful software. As part of the deal, Steve Jobs returned to Apple as an advisor. Soon after, he became interim CEO. He looked at Apple's many products. He canceled the ones that did not sell well. He focused on only a few key products. He brought clear vision and simple design back to Apple. In 1997, Apple launched the Think Different campaign. The ad showed famous people who changed the world. The message said, "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels." People love the idea of being creative. In 1998, Apple released the iMac. The iMac was an all-in-one computer. The screen and the computer were in one colorful plastic case. It was easy to set up, no messy cables. It was popular around the world. Apple's sales rose again. In 2001, Apple opened its first retail stores. The stores were simple, bright, and friendly. In the same year, Apple launched the iPod, a small music player. The iPod could hold thousands of songs in a small device. It changed the way people listened to music. In 2003, Apple opened the iTunes Store. People could buy and download songs online. Later, movies and apps came to the store. In 2007, Steve introduced the iPhone. The iPhone was a phone, an iPod, and an internet device in one. It had a large touchscreen and no physical keyboard. It changed the mobile phone industry forever. In 2010, Apple released the iPad, a tablet computer. It was a large touchscreen device for browsing, reading, and apps. The iPad started a new category of devices. Under Steve's leadership, Apple became one of the world's most valuable companies. People around the world used Apple products every day. Chapter 7: Health, Farewell, and Inspiration. In 2003, Steve was diagnosed with a rare form of pancreatic cancer. Doctors found a neuroendocrine tumor in his pancreas. He underwent surgery in July 2004, and the tumor was removed. For several years, he recovered and returned to work. In 2008, Steve's health declined again. He had another operation on his pancreas in early 2009. Later that year, in April 2009, he received a liver transplant. The transplant gave him new strength, and he thanked his donor family warmly. Despite his health challenges, Steve continued to guide Apple. He led design meetings, made key decisions, and appeared at product launches. At Apple's 2011 Worldwide Developers Conference, he introduced iCloud with energy and passion. In August 2011, Steve stepped down as Apple's CEO. He named his friend Tim Cook as his successor, but stayed on as chairman of the board. He wrote to Apple's team that he could no longer meet his duties. On October 5, 2011, at age 56, Steve Jobs passed away. Apple stores and people around the world mourned. His legacy lives on in every Apple product and in his famous words, "Stay hungry, stay foolish."